Hello everyone. My name is Yan. I'm a solution architect from Alibaba Cloud Academy. Welcome to join this webinar.
Okay, now let's introduce myself. My name is Yan. I'm a Alibaba Cloud certified instructor based in Paris. I'm also in charge of training and certification as well as the university corporation in the EMEA region. I have 9 years experience in IT consulting and cloud architecting. Here is the agenda of today's webinar. Starting from the cloud-native applications, then we will talk about the DevOps solution in Alibaba Cloud. We'll also deep dive into Alibaba Cloud Container Service. At the end of this webinar, we will have a console demo regarding the implementation of continuous integration and the continuous delivery in Alibaba Cloud cloud-native infrastructure. Okay, let's take a look of the cloud-native applications. Cloud-native is an approach to building and running applications that explores the advantages of the cloud computing delivery model. Cloud-native is about how applications are created and deployed, not where. While today public cloud impacts the thinking about infrastructure investment for virtually every industry, a cloud-like delivery model isn't exclusive to public environment. It's appropriate for both public and private clouds. Most important is the ability to offer nearly limitless computing powers on demand, along with modern data and application service for developers. When companies build and operate applications in a cloud-native fashion, they bring new ideas to market faster and respond sooner to customer demands. Organizations require a platform for building and operating cloud-native applications and a service that automates and integrates the concept of DevOps, continuous delivery, microservice, and containers. First of all, DevOps is the collaboration between software developers and IT operations, with the goal of constantly delivering the high-quality software that solves customers' challenge. It has the potential to create a culture and an environment where building, testing, and releasing software happens rapidly, frequently, and more consistently. Continued delivery, enabled by agile product development practices, is about shipping small batches of software to production constantly through automation. Continuous delivery makes the act of releasing reliable, so organizations can deliver frequently at less risk and get feedback faster from the end user. Microservice is an architecture approach to developing an application as a collection of small services. Each service implements business capabilities, runs in its own process, and communicates via HTTP, API, or messaging. Each microservice can be deployed, upgraded, scaled, and restarted independent of other services in the application. Containers offer both efficiency and speed compared with standard virtual machine. Using operating system level virtualization, a single operating system instance is dynamically divided among one or more isolated containers. Each of the containers has a unique writable file system and resource quota. The low overhead of creating and destroying containers, combined with the high packing density in a single VM, makes container an ideal compute unity for deploying the individual microservice. A cloud-native application is easy to achieve innovation from quick trial and error experience. And around the application, it can provide application lifecycle management from develop, deploy, run, and iterate until the retirement of the application, and make application robust to guarantee the scalability, reliability, observability, and operability, auditability, and security. Make it easy to use, save infrastructure costs, and operating costs. If you follow the guidance from past 15 years, you will most likely build a system shown in the traditional monolithic application architecture. You construct a large core application containing all of your domain logic. It includes modules such as identity, catalog, ordering, and something more. Your core application communicates with a large relational database, and your core service exposes functionality via HTML interface. At some point, however, you begin to feel uncomfortable. You find yourself losing control of your application. As time goes on, this feeling becomes more intense and you eventually enter a state known as a fear cycle. The application has become so complicated and no single person can understand it. You fear making changes. Each change has costly side effects. So the iteration was very slow because the application is too big to modify and deploy. The new feature fix become tricky, time-consuming, and expensive to implement. And each release, as small as it may be, requires a full deployment of the entire applications. And one unstable component can crash the entire system. The new technologies and frameworks are not an option. It's difficult to implement agile development methodology. Many organizations have addressed the monolithic fear cycle by adopting microservice approach to building your system. How the application is decomposed across a set of small isolated microservices. Each service is self-contained and encapsulates its own code, data, and dependencies. Each service is deployed in the software container and managed by the container orchestrator. Instead of a large relational database, each service owns its own data store. The type of which vary based upon the data needs. Note how some service depends on a relational database, but other NoSQL databases. One service stores its state in a distributed cache. Note how our traffic routes through an API gateway service that is responsible for routing traffic to the core backend service and enforcing many cross-cutting consents. Most importantly, the application takes full advantage of the scalability and the resiliency features found in a modern cloud platform. When you have a set of microservices running on the VM or inside the Docker containers, you can consider moving some of them to serverless. Here are some common cited reasons. First of all is the cost. The service with low traffic or cron drops are cheaper with serverless. This is because you don't pay for them when they are useless. The time to market to get more done faster. Free yourself of the undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing infrastructure. Focus on your user need inside. The scalability, you can scale faster and more aggressively because you are not constrained by the amount of the space capacity you reserve. And it's easier ops. You get logging and monitoring out of the box. You can also integrate with the service for tracing, alerting, and visualization. About the security, you have more fine-grained control of the access. Give each function only the permission it needs to minimize the attack surface. So what is a serverless? Serverless is a cloud computing execution model where the cloud provider dynamically manages the allocation and provisioning of the computing capacity. A serverless application runs in stateless compute containers that are event-triggered. and fully managed by the cloud vendor. Pricing is based on the number of executions rather than pre-purchased compute capacity. From monolithic architecture to microservice architecture, then goes to serverless architecture. That is the cloud-native application evolution in the architecture side. And in the artifact side, at the beginning, you start from the package, then use the Docker image, then use the cloud-native platform Kubernetes, then you can use the server mesh. Now let's talk about the application lifecycle, from the development phase to deployment phase to the run phase and the iteration phase and until the retirement phase. We start from the development phase. In this phase, the application framework improves its ability to make the deployment easy, the simplicity to make the monolithic application to microservice application, such as intelligent proxy, service discovery. Then you have to make the application robust to dynamic update configurations without application restarts, such as the circuit breaker, external configuration, etc. The next phase is the deployment phase. In this phase, we have to persistently improve the application's agility, which allows for fast deployment and quick iterations. The Docker file details describe the which files, libraries, command build a Docker image. The security ability integrated into the DevOps workflow, such as base image, ensures security scanning, and block deploying and the building if the container image has a reliability. The fast deployments and the quick iterations with CI/CD, the continuous test to deliver quality applications. Consistent image running on the development, staging, and production environment. The next phase is the running and the iteration phase. In this phase, the consistent target is to make operations automatic and easier, and applications reliable. According to the telemetry and the metrics data autoscale, expanded resource provision to running applications. And you have to embrace the failures, injection failures to expose problem before customer interactions. In this phase, you also need to take care of the flow control, graceful degradation to protect application to ensure that it takes much more workload, and for the dynamic update configurations without application restarts, such as version control, the traffic control, application configuration control, etc. The logging, the tracing, and the metrics observability tools to understand and analyze what application is doing, reporting and alerting the health and the telemetry data, debugging with application performance management APM, and the distribute application tracing service. In this phase, you can use Kubernetes as a cloud-native platform. You can use Prometheus for the monitoring. You can also use some Alibaba Cloud cloud-native products such as ACK, Alibaba Cloud Container Service, which is the managed Kubernetes platform. You can also use log service for the logging, tracing of the different applications. You can also use Alibaba Cloud Action Tree for the audit and the Alibaba Cloud Function Compute for the interaction between different applications. At the end, for the retirement phase, the application will not be blindly retired through telemetry measurements to know if an application is being used, analyses telemetry data, and regularly send dashboards to know the state of a running application. Okay, now we should talk about the DevOps solution in Alibaba Cloud. Here is the DevOps Loop. DevOps is a set of practice that automates the process between software development and IT teams in order that they can build, test, and release software faster and more reliably. The concept of the DevOps is founded on building a culture of collaboration between the teams. You can start the DevOps lifecycle with an agile view designed to plan your next release and iteration. Follow the pull request and share the piece of the code. And you can follow the continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline through a pipeline view. Then you can build and test your software, and you should do it continuously. End of your cycle commitment, you can build automatically your release node from your Git repository or Jira. Then you have to deploy your application. Then you should do the regular maintenance and operations. At the end, you have to build your own dashing view, monitor scenes with the light terminal UI showing the resources heat map of planning your interventions. In this DevOps lifecycle, you can find the related products here. Some of them are the open source products, some of them are developed by Alibaba Cloud. For example, we start from the bottom layer, the infrastructure as a code. You can use Terraform to provision the whole infrastructure using the Terraform code. And in Alibaba Cloud, you can also use the resource orchestration service, which is the equivalent of Terraform. And of course, you can use some other open source products such as Ansible, Chef, and Parker to manage and provision your own infrastructure. In the platform as a service layer, we have the serverless Kubernetes. In the container as a service layer, you can either use the open source Kubernetes or use our Alibaba Cloud container service for Kubernetes, together with our container registry, which helps you to manage all your images globally. And for the CI/CD, in Alibaba Cloud Domestic Portal, we have the code pipeline. Otherwise, you can use the open source CI/CD tool, Jenkins. For the logging and the monitoring, we have Alibaba Cloud Monitor and Simple Log Service. Log Service is a real-time data logging service which supports collection, consumption, shipping, search, and analysis of the logs, and improve the capacity of processing and analyzing large amount of logs. Let's take a look at the Alibaba Cloud DevOps solution. The first use case is infrastructure as a code using the Terraform solution, which is the open source resource orchestration tool that supports multi-platform cloud deployment. This solution uses Terraform to implement automated operation and maintenance management for Alibaba Cloud infrastructure. The write, plan, create infrastructure as code are used to manage the infrastructure of Alibaba Cloud computing platform, and a template is used to define the lifecycle of infrastructure from creation, update, to destruction. Terraform version v0.8.7 and above support Alibaba Cloud service, and we also have a dedicated team to maintain all the Terraform provider. This solution is suitable for adding Alibaba Cloud ECS instance and attaching the data disks to create the service load balancer instance and create VPC clusters. The next solution is using Packer to do the automation. This is a lightweight open-source custom image creation tool that helps you to automate process across multi-platform. This solution uses open-source tool Packer to automatically create custom image based on Alibaba Cloud infrastructure image or some marketplace image. A template is used to define the provisioning of ECS instance and the service installation. This template is reusable, releasing users from repetitive manual work. Custom images can be created for attached data disk and saved in the RAW and VHD format image on either Windows or Linux platform. This solution is suitable for the auto-scaling scenario or hybrid cloud scenario. You use Packer to automate the instance management and provisioning using your custom template. The next solution I'd like to introduce is a continuous integration and continuous delivery solution, which provide a fast application deployment through automation and repeatable processes. In this solution, you can see the architecture here. A Kubernetes cluster can help you easily construct a continuous integration and delivery platform. It automatically completes the entire DevOps process from code submission to application deployment, ensuring that only the code that passes automated testing is delivered and deployed. The efficient application release and rollback process greatly increase the efficiency of the software development, deployment, and operation and maintenance. For the Docker image pushing and pulling as well as the image duplication, you can use Alibaba Cloud Container Registry. Okay, next page is the Microservices Solution. It is a high-performance solution that simplifies container management and cluster scaling. Inside this solution architecture, you can see a Kubernetes cluster provides excellent support for the microservice operations, so you can focus on the development and the iteration of your application. Splitting a massive application into a collection of microservices allows for agile development, testing, deployment, and operation and maintenance. Microservices are easy to understand, develop, and maintain. Additionally, the free framework and technical options promote efficient communication within the teams. In this architecture, you can also find our Cloud Monitor for the monitoring, the log service for the logging, and also Alibaba Cloud Image Service for the Kubernetes image duplication, storing, and image pulling and pushing. In the next chapter, we will talk about the Alibaba Cloud Container Service. According to the latest analysis report of the Forest New Wave, in the public cloud enterprise container platform sector, Alibaba Cloud Container Service is in the strong performer zone, ranking the fourth place. In the right side is the vendor quick card overview. Forest evaluate 7 vendors and ranked them against 10 criteria such as orchestration, registry, deployment models, user experience, integration APIs, roadmap, etc. Forest take for Alibaba Cloud Container Service stands out with robust ARM and integration features. ACK and EDA supports Istio, Spring Cloud, and Doodle. It also provides support for the wide range of homegrown and third-party continuous integration and continuous development tool chains. It supports for Kubeflow, Knative, Spark, and Flink addresses need for machine learning, big data, and serverless workload.
So let's take a look of ACK Overview. Based on either public cloud or private cloud or even edge computing, we provide different services in computing, storage, and networking. We leverage these resources to give you either serverless or managed Kubernetes. Besides, we also provide Alibaba Cloud Container Registry for image repository and also for the cross-region image application purpose. And based on our service provided, we give you a secured platform with observability and elasticity. You can easily monitor your containerized application and your cluster platform performance in ACK. And we also support multi-cloud solution, and ACK can easily deploy Istio or Knative by only one click. And we also provide autopilot features. For example, for the cluster provided storage, rely on the block storage for persisting, backup, and executing other type of data migration on behalf of the application owner. For the monitoring, tie into the log service for a managed monitoring stack that can detect and inform the application owner for any problem. Advanced operator can automatically train themselves based on throughput or app-specific metrics. For HPA, horizontal port autoscaler, you can scale out the stateless tiers of your application using HPA built into Kubernetes. For port disruption budget, set smart limits controlling the disruption of the application during scheduled downtime and other maintenance activities. With all those features described here, you can easily integrate your DevOps lifecycle using ACK. You can deploy your microservice or enterprise application using ACK. You can also use ACK for AI or IoT-based innovation. So ACK can help you manage the lifecycle of your container with Docker and Kubernetes. It supports Linux or Windows-based containers based on Alibaba Cloud capability resources, including computing, networking, and storage service. It can easily integrate into DevOps existing tooling for automation. Here is the highlighted feature of ACK. The first point is about security. ACK provides a cluster authorization feature to protect your master and worker node. And ACK supports secured image and helm. It can also provide dark image vulnerability scanning feature. ACK also provides the dashboard for cluster audit. About the deployment and the management, ACK provides a one-click Kubernetes cluster deployment and upgrade feature. So if you want to deploy some add-on like Istio or Knative, it can also be deployed by just one click. It supports Helm app catalog and service catalog, and provide end-to-end graphic user interface in Alibaba Cloud Console. About the DevOps, ACK provide automatic trigger for your service redeployment, and GitLab Jenkins, they are available in ACK application catalog. And you can also use Terraform to provide your service and clusters in ACK. About Alibaba Cloud products integration, ACK is highly integrated with other Alibaba Cloud services such as resource access management to controlled access, key management service to encrypt your data, log service and cloud monitor to do your cluster or your service monitoring. It provides a secure and standard compliant Kubernetes solution.
One of the key benefits of Kubernetes is about elasticity. And ACK provides very comprehensive scaling policy for enterprise requirements in both resource layer and application layer. In the resource layer, Kubernetes cluster can add additional nodes dynamically when the application requires more computing resources. We can scale out 1,000 of nodes in minutes to handle the bursting workload easily. ACK supports VM, parameter, and GPU instance. Spot instance can let you take advantage of unused computing capacity in Alibaba Cloud. It is up to 90% discount compared to the on-demand price. Spot instance can be used for various stateless, fault-tolerant applications, for example, the job for data processing, rendering, etc. We also provide another way, so-called virtual node, and it's based on the Elastic Container Instance, ECI. In the application layer, there are horizontal pod scaling for adding more pod instances, and vertical pod autoscaling to add the resources on demand. And for the application has to pick hour periodically, we can leverage the Cron HPA controller to define the scaling policy with CronTab.
ACK provides three types of Kubernetes cluster: dedicated Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes cluster, and serverless Kubernetes. For the dedicated one, you must create 3 master nodes and several worker nodes to achieve a high availability architecture. It requires you to plan, maintain, and upgrade your Kubernetes cluster on your own. The second one is the managed Kubernetes cluster. You only need to create your worker node. Container service for Kubernetes will create and manage your master nodes. In this type of Kubernetes, your cluster is easy to use with low cost and high availability. You can just focus on the business without the need to manage the master node of your Kubernetes cluster. For the serverless Kubernetes, you do not need to create or manage any master node or worker node. You can use Container Service Console or the command line interface to configure the resources for your containers, specify container images for application, provide methods for external access, and start your applications. If you want to deploy your ACK cluster by console, you have comprehensive cluster template from Alibaba Cloud Console. You can choose either standard managed cluster template or GPU template, bare metal, or edge computing, or even Windows cluster. You can also choose dedicated cluster template, dedicated GPU cluster, or you can register your external cluster. And you can, of course, deploy your serverless cluster directly from your console.
We all know Kubernetes is fantastic, but it is also very complex to operate. The ACK provided managed Kubernetes will simplify the cluster lifecycle management. The master node are managed by Alibaba Cloud, so it can be upgraded, can be scaled easily. But the worker nodes are still owned by the user. The user needs to pay for the infrastructure resources and patch the security fix for it and do the capacity planning. We provide one innovative way, serverless Kubernetes ASK. It is compatible to Kubernetes, but you just need to pay for the workload usage rather than the infrastructure. It's nodeless, it's serverless, so there is no maintenance effort for your worker nodes, and there is no requirement for the capacity planning anymore. The pod is running in ECI, Lightweighted Virtualization Sandbox. Some customers are using the ASK for machine learning, which requires GPU device. But typically, one GPU device is too much for the model inference. To solve such challenge, ASK/ECI will support the vGPU very soon. That means you can only use 1/4 of the 1/2 of GPU to save your cost. There are some highlights for the serverless Kubernetes. First is the zero operation, no more effort for the capacity planning and the node maintenance. Capacity. ASK is compatible to your Kubernetes syntax. It supports CRD, namespace, ISTIL, and Knative. It can scale about 500 ports in 30 seconds. It is very suitable for the burst workload and data processing tasks. We build the end-to-end security architecture in ACK, which covers secured infrastructure. ACK integrates the infrastructure security for both public cloud or private cloud. For example, we support storage encryption by custom-owned key, integrating with RAM for the authentication and fine-grained authorization, using action tree for auditing. Second is the secured software supply chain. That means enable security during the application building and delivery. For example, for the image scan, signing image, etc. And for the secured runtime, ACK provides the built-in security best practice for Kubernetes. Besides that, it can monitor the abnormal process and the network behaviors and isolate the security risk during the runtime. Let's take a look for software supply chain. Firstly, developer submit the application artifact. For example, the source code, the Docker file, the Helm chart, etc. Then, ACR, Alibaba Cloud Container Registry, start to build the Docker image, and it can scan and assign image automatically. If there is no security risk, it will replicate the image globally and rolling out a new deployment. All can be controlled by the security policy. During the runtime, Alibaba Cloud Security Center will monitor the process and the network, detect the abnormal behaviors, and isolate the vulnerability and notify administrator for the reparation.
The next feature is Container Registry, ACR. It is a secured image repository hosting service providing container image lifecycle management. Container Registry Enterprise Edition allows you to manage images throughout image management lifecycle. It provides secured image management capability, include image build from source code, replication across global regions, and it is very easy to manage image permission for RAM accounts. This service simplifies the creation and maintenance of the image registry and supports image management in multiple regions. Combined with other cloud services such as container service, container registry provides an optimized solution for distributing cloud-native applications on the cloud. ACR Enterprise Edition is a high-secured registry service that Docker's images are encrypted and stored on the customer's OSS bucket. It provides flexible network access control management. Customers can manage the public network, VPC network access through the whitelist. It provides image security scan, which display the detailed image layer information. Container Registry provides image vulnerability reports, which shows multidimensional vulnerability information. And it can also support the P2P distribution, which helps you improve the download time. It supports the cross-region image replication. It also supports seamless integration among different cloud products. For example, integrated with your GitHub or Bitbucket and some self-built GitLab. Container Registry can automatically build new image after you commit your source code.
More and more companies have the business requirement for global expansion, and they want to deliver the container application around the world. The enterprise edition of Container Registry Service will be helpful on that. Firstly, it covers all the 20 regions around the world. Secondly, it supports the image replication across the regions. That means you can push the image once and it will be replicated to the other region automatically, and there are 7 times improvement replication efficiency. Besides that, we support large-scale image distribution in 10K node with P2P technology of Dragonfly, which contribute to CNCF. And the image download speed is 4 times than before.
Here is the Container Registry Service Enterprise Edition dashboard. In this dashboard, you can find out how to set up your access control by using the VPC whitelist. You can also click here to create a repository and namespace. You can also define your code source, for example, GitHub, GitLab. And you can also define your server-side encryption and your P2P acceleration settings and authorization settings. You can have a security scan for all your Docker images to find out the vulnerabilities. You can also define your container registry image replication rule from this menu. For example, we can create a rule called London to China. Then your source instance is based in China region, and you can define your target instance based in London region. Here is an example to automate your cross-border deployment pipeline by using ACR and ACK. For example, as a developer, you can commit your source code in GitLab. Then you can bind your GitLab with ACR repository. Once your code has been committed, ACR will automatically build your code, and based on the branch, on the batch, latest or master, ACR will deploy to Kubernetes cluster in Shanghai region for testing. If everything is going well, then we will replicate from this China region to ACR in the European region, for example, in London region. Once the ACR in London region finish the replication, it will start update deployment to the ACK cluster based in London region as well. Then you finish the lifecycle for your cross-border deployment.
Now it's demo time. In the last chapter, we will have a console demo to achieve the CUCD in ACK. Okay, we will demonstrate how to Dockerize application and push it to container registry to achieve the CI/CD automation on Alibaba Cloud Container Service. In this scenario, the developer needs to change the code and push the code to the GitHub. And you can associate your GitHub account with container registry to automatically trigger the build action in the container registry. And in your container registry, you can also define the deployment trigger in order to automatically deploy the new updated service in Alibaba Cloud ACK.
Here is the dashboard of Alibaba Cloud Console. Click here to go to the container service for Kubernetes. Click here to create a new cluster from the template. Here we should choose the standard dedicated cluster. We can give the name of cluster, choose the Kubernetes version, container runtime, deployment region, and the VPC and vSwitch. You can click here to configure a SNOT, to expose API server with the EIP, and to authorize the SSH connection from internet, and go to the master configuration. We can select this instance and choose the quantity of the worker node. We don't need too much worker node. Then you can type your password here to get access to the master node. Otherwise, you can use the key pair. Actually, we recommend you to use key pair. Then you can go to the next step to set up the component configuration, and you got the product list in the order confirmation page. You can find out all the cluster creation logs here, and you just need to be patient until the cluster creation successfully done. Then you can see the master node and worker node and their states and CPU usage, etc. And you can also create your CI/CD server using an ECS instance. For example, I'm using my ECS instance here, and I can get the SSH connection remotely. So I can install the Docker CE and start Docker, verify Docker is installed correctly by running the Hello World image. And I can build my Docker image and clone the source code to the CI server, build the Docker, and first change to the directory of the source code that has cloned locally. Then you type the command to build it as a simple web application. And you can run the Docker image locally to verify your web application is correctly running on your browser. The next step is to set up your container registry. Then go to the container registry to the code source page and click Bind Account to associate your GitHub account. Go back to the namespace page and click on the Reset Docker Login Password. Set up the Docker login password. A namespace is a collection of the repository. We recommend you group the repository of a company or organization in one namespace. Here you should put a unique name to create a new namespace. Let's see, Academy Day demo, confirm it. Now you can see your namespace in the list. Here you switch to the repository page. Click here to create a new repository. You have to choose the corresponding region for your repository. For example, we choose US West, which is Silicon Valley region. And you put your repository name here. Click here. Go to the next step to associate the repository with your GitHub repository. Let's choose the application, which is Java Web App. Click here to create a new repository and click Manage menu and check the automatic build images is on. And you have to add a build rule. Choose the type equals branch and choose the master branch. and give the tags latest. Now let's go back to the CI/CD server. Let's make some modification on the source code. For example, here we just put another line. Let's commit the first modification and push it to the Docker registry and type your GitHub username and password. Since we have automatic build image feature enabled, so we can double check in the build log. You can see there is a new building in progress. When the new building is finished, you can deploy this application using Kubernetes cluster. You have to select the cluster name space, and choose the type of the application. It's a new deployment. And select the image. Select the version latest and check always pull image feature. Go to the next page and you have to create a new service here and choose the service type is load balancer with the public access and specify the name of the service and the port number. Create the deployment. It will also create the new service. Let's check the deployment state. It's already deployed with 2 ports. And you can also check the service page. This new service has been deployed, and you have the external endpoint here. So we can copy paste in the navigator. Then you have your new web application released with the latest modification. After every commit, if you don't want to manually deploy it, you can create a trigger for the redeployment. Here is the URL. You should copy the URL and go back to the container registry and find your registry trigger and copy paste the trigger URL. Here we can test again. We made some more modifications. Then let's commit it again and push it. Okay, let's double check in the container registry. You see another building is ongoing. When it's successfully done, let's just take a look at the deployment state. Check the endpoint. Then you got your new application released. This deployment has been triggered by the container registry automatically. Okay, that's it for the demonstration. Thank you everyone for watching my session at this webinar. I hope that you enjoyed the session and learned a lot of useful information about our products and the service. If you have any question about this topic, you can submit them by using the Ask a Question box on the right. We'd also like to invite you to claim your Alibaba Cloud product coupon by clicking on the March promotion banner. Please note that these coupons are only valid in the month of March. If you are ready, click the button below to start the short test for this topic. By successfully completing the test, you can apply for a recognition of attendance certificate online. What's more, you will also have the opportunity to sign up for the ACA offline examination for free, which is only available today. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.